This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Good morning to everybody here in the California area on the Pacific Coast, and to all of our listeners in the middle of the country and the East Coast. Today, we're going to talk about longevity, how to achieve it, where you can find a blue zone, and why do you want it, and what is a blue zone. I know I've spoken on this a couple times before, but the reason is it's in the news constantly about these blue zones. And I don't see a lot of people taking advantage of them. There's 5 cities that have been declared blue zone places where people live the longest. And the United States is lucky to have one of them, Loma Linda. We're going to go to that in a few minutes, but right now I want to catch up on the news. I don't know if you've all heard it or not, but anybody who's ever watched the Today Show on NBC knows Savannah Guthrie, and perhaps you've seen her mother on the shows. She often brings her on it. Tragically, a couple of nights ago, Nancy Guthrie disappeared. That's the mother. 84 years old, and she has a heart condition and a couple other things wrong with her. They have not heard from her. They have not actually heard from kidnappers. They've been looking all around. It's been kind of a strange way to be investigating a disappearance. And I'm not criticizing them, but first there's no news. Next, there is news. Apparently there was a ransom letter, if you will, sent to some of the other news outlets. And it's just a crazy thing. We don't know what was in those ransom notes or who sent them. But instead of sending them to Savannah and her family, they sent them to these outlets. This is just absolutely terrifying. They live in this beautiful area in Tucson, Arizona, which is about 60 miles from the Mexico border. Now, nobody is saying that they took her to Mexico. We don't know. We're just saying that's the location. We have no idea who could have taken her. She was dropped off at home after the family got together for dinner on Saturday night, I believe it was. And her other daughter, Annie, I guess, and her husband said they dropped her off about 9:30. I don't know. It keeps changing. Nobody seems to know. The reason they discovered she was missing was because she didn't show up at church on Sunday. And that's when Savannah became very concerned and filed the missing persons report that afternoon, a Sunday afternoon. So they've been looking for her since then. And she does have a pacemaker. If anybody knows anything about a pacemaker, it does run out of juice if you don't have it somewhere connected to what is keeping the battery going and all of that. I don't understand pacemakers. I'm not familiar with them. Nobody I know has one and can explain it to me. But just a few minutes ago on the Harris Faulkner show on Fox, she asked John Roberts, another co-host on that station. He was willing to explain what happens on a pacemaker. He has one himself and went into big detail on that. If you can find a recording of that on the internet and you don't know about pacemakers, like I don't know about pacemakers, perhaps you might want to look at that just for future reference, if for nothing else. So we're sending our thoughts and prayers to Savannah and her family. We're all very worried. We don't understand what went on. It's just a horrible, crazy story. And if I hear anything else during the show, I will get it to you right away. I just can't even imagine some crazy person going into the house where there was a camera in the doorway and ripping out that camera and going in and taking an 84-year-old woman out of her bed and taking her away, or whatever they did with her. There was a small trace of blood going out the front door. And that's about all they have. They've had dogs out there. It's been kind of a crazy, mixed up investigation. One day they're in the house and one day they're out of the house. One day they think everything's okay, then they don't. It's horrible. It's all over the news everywhere else. And I only say this and tell you, I mean, there's so many horrible things that go on with people being kidnapped and murdered and everything else, and all the problems in Minnesota, Minneapolis, that this is on the news like this too, because so many people watch that show and know Savannah and love her and now love her family. And this is just horrendous, horrendous. Even President Trump wrote a note to her, and he's authorized the use of anybody to go out and search for her, meaning some of our military people that are on base and have the time and the wherewithal to be able to help with the investigation. So that's how I wanted to start today. And the next thing I want to talk about on the news before I get into longevity and all, I have been watching some of the hearings going on about the government positions and all, and I am appalled with some of these committees. I don't hear anything so upsetting, screaming and yelling at somebody who's testifying willingly and coming into the committees to be heard. I've never heard people speak to members of Congress or members of the cabinet. It's horrendous. There is no decorum anymore. Maxine Waters and some of her cronies are just yelling and screaming and using what some people would call profanity, going on and on. And I have to say, I hear this from the Democrats all the time now when they're giving press conferences or walking down the halls of our government. And it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. These aren't little kids. These are adults who have been in office. And you could at least be polite. Okay, you don't like what the Republicans did, and the Republicans don't like what the Democrats did, but they don't have to call each other horrible names and accuse them of, like ICE, accuse them of being Nazis. And this has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart. Now, don't get mad at me because I think we need ICE. We need ICE just because Nancy was kidnapped. We have bad, evil people in the country. Now, I'm not saying specifically I know who took her. I don't know. I hope to God it wasn't a family member. Who knows? We don't know. But what I'm saying is when Republicans are interviewed by a columnist or a host walking down some of the halls around Congress. That's where all their offices are on the Hill. They are not rude to these people. They might stick the microphone in front of them. They might ask over and over the same question, please give me an answer, please. But they are not swearing at them. They are not accusing them of being Nazis and their compatriots being Nazis. That is the most horrible thing you could call somebody. Think what Nazis did. There is nobody in our government doing that unless it's on the wrong side of the aisle. And I'm not so sure. I'm just absolutely disgusted with the way people are acting these days. And who gives the public the right to protest like this and get these people in who you know darn well are not actual ordinary everyday citizens? They're paid agitators. Some of them have even been on camera and saying that they're paid agitators. Sorry. Who pays for your food? Who brings your food? Who made this sign? This sign is absolutely beautiful. The printing is perfect. The color is perfect. Where'd you get your hat? Where did you get your t-shirt? Where are you staying when you've come far away? Who's paying for it? And why are you in the freezing snow doing this? Some of them, when they're interviewed and the host interviewing them or the reporter interviewing them will say, what about your job? Don't you have to go to work? The person, the agitator will say, no, I'm getting paid for this. Give me a blankety blank break. We can't have this going on in our country. And now people are getting wiser than they were, and they're opening investigations to see who is behind this, to see who is spending the money to bring down the government that's in control, the Republicans now. Can't you just accept the fact that the Republicans won the election fair and square? No, you can't. You have to investigate that again now. Well, okay, Trump investigated the one where they said he lost to Biden, and they said there was no corruption. But the interesting thing to me is my husband and I were watching the people collecting ballots and all on television, on major networks during the night of the election, and we saw people with big mail bags, sticking them under tables, sticking some in mailboxes out in front. Where did these votes come from? I've never seen anything like this before. If we don't clean up our country, somebody is going to attack us and come over here and take what they think is theirs. And it's not the United States of America. We are a free, independent country, and we're going to stay that way. And when we are looking at places like Greenland to help protect our country and our allies, I don't want to hear it from the Democrats that we're stealing property. First of all, I think you heard some of the people at the Grammys, which I'll get to in a minute, saying things that you're not an alien, you're not an illegal alien if you're living on stolen land. Anytime countries are expanding throughout history, they have claimed to be the victor and taken over the countries. Excuse me. It goes back to biblical times and before. Nobody was complaining about it in the early days as we were marching across the United States. I suppose some people were, but we were expanding to give everybody a better life. Now, you who think the United States is so horrible and doesn't give you enough, I want you to think about all the welfare checks that go out. I want you to think about the Medicare that comes out. I'm not happy with Medicare now. It's costing us lots of money. We're at that age where we need it. and it's costing us money. But I'm not going to go riot over it. I'm just going to vote in somebody else in office. This was put in under Obama, and it's hurting us. My Medicare check, my Social Security check is now lower than when I started out because of Obamacare, and they're subtracting money from my Social Security check. That's just a point for you to know. It's happening to everybody. Now, it's not going to make me end up in the poorhouse, but for some people, it very well could. So, what can I say? You still can't go to a doctor you want. You can do a PPO and it says you can go to the doctor of your choice, but the fact of the matter is you can't. They're full up. They don't have room to take you. I don't want to go on and on about that. But I do want the Democrats to think about being a little more courteous when they're talking, because they're talking to me, they're talking to you, not just getting in the face of a Republican and screaming at them. They're doing it to us through our representatives. And I resent it. Now, think about who's running for governor in California and think about who wants to run for president. I gotta say, you Democrats are not the party of John Kennedy or Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Truman or any of these people that were in the Democrat Party. And I don't think all those people were anyway. I think I'm wrong on that. I think some of them were more Republican, the grand old party or whatever. I don't pay too much attention to old politics. I'm ashamed to say, and I've forgotten my civics classes from high school and college. What I will say is you have a bunch of Looney Tunes in your party, and it's not what it used to stand for. I've always been a Republican. I was born a Republican, I think. That's just how my family was, and I followed along. But I always paid attention to who was running in the different offices for the different offices and all. And I studied them, and I wondered what they were, and it still wanted to vote Republican. So that's what I did. What I'm saying is you don't have anybody. Why would you want Kamala Harris? She couldn't get elected. She just spent billions of dollars because she wanted her picture up in the Times Square on those big screens. That's what she wanted. She even said it out loud. I'd love to find that clip. Well, I'm going to be in Times Square. I'm going to be in Times Square. Well, guess what? My grandson, when he was a child fashion model and commercial actor, already had his picture in Times Square. So give me a break, Kamala. You're a little old to be craving publicity like that. So far, when you were running for president and you couldn't find a running mate, you chose that idiot governor in Minnesota to be your running mate? Where are her brains? And now she has opened up her Kamala HQ or whatever it is. I don't know if it's Kamala or what. Headquarters back on social media. It hasn't been used for 2 years. And she thinks she's going to get the young vote out, the young voters, that she's going to get them to vote for her to be president. Well, what are her policies? She couldn't come up with them before. She's not going to come up with them now. I'm sure there's some good people in the Democrat Party. Unfortunately, a lot of them quit. Like Joe Manchin. Look it up. You've driven them out. You didn't want to listen to them. Maybe this time you should. Oh no, I forgot. I'm supposed to be pleading for our party. Okay, so that is what I have to say about that. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that I want to go into in much more detail next week. NADS, and stem cells and things like that. I want to devote a lot of time to it because people are becoming ill. We don't know what's in vaccinations and things like that. I just want to talk about that next week. So I'm not going to talk about it today, but there was a report, and this is the reason I'm mentioning it, that some cancers are being linked to things that were in some of the vaccinations for COVID, cancer cells. So we'll talk about that next week. But on the same wave here of what I'm talking about, our health, I do watch social media. I want to know what's going on in the general population. And I'm not on it 24 hours a day, anything like that. But I also post myself, and that's how people find me for my podcast. So what I want to say is I'm just questioning why there seems to be such a rise in cancer in young children. And one little girl I was following, actually, I followed a couple of them, and they just couldn't cure them in any manner. I don't know what the parents were giving permission of how to treat these patients or not. That we're concentrating more on asking for prayer and giving us updates on the children's health and trying to make the child who is suffering happy because they had so many people liking them and loving them and praying for them and all. But I'm wondering why are we losing these children, and why are they contracting, or however they're getting these horrible cancers with tumors? Now the young man who was on television an awful lot on the news and all as an honorary Secret Service man, he's has cancer, and they found 3 more tumors, and it's horrific. It's horrific. It breaks your heart. I want to know what's going on. So RFK Jr., do me a favor and start studying that if you haven't. I know you're studying vaccines, but I want to know why there have been so many children brought down with this horrible thing, the big C. Maybe it just seems like more because it's on social media and in the newspapers and television and all. I don't know. I want an answer. And we'll discuss that next week also. So today, excuse me, for my information, I know I've spoken on this before, but everybody is interested in longevity. And a lot of people are talking about blue zones. Well, I spoke to you about blue zones once before, and it's up to you if you want to partake of this phenomenon. But what is the reason you want to live to be over 100 years? Think about that while I'm telling you about the movement. Now, there's 5 different places, excuse me, 5 different places in the world where people consistently live longer and healthier lives. And the places are in Okinawa, which is in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Ikaria in Greece, Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and Loma Linda, California. The reason I thought this again to do another show is because I was scrolling through about longevity and it popped up about the blue zones. And the next thing I knew, I'm living in one, or a place that's aspiring to be named a blue zone. I had no idea. So far, I haven't figured out why they're doing it. Now, I believe in blue zones, but first I want to ask you, why do you want to live to be over 100? It's kind of funny coming from me because I had two grandmas who lived to be over 100. So I don't think too much about it. I just think in our family, we live longer. But it has nothing to do with genes. So I should clean up my act and live more like I'm in a blue zone. But here is what happens in these different places that I just mentioned. I don't know. I thought I had a note on Loma Linda here I wanted to tell you about. Here we go. It has some of the things. I don't think I've ever even been in Loma Linda, but it's here in Southern California and not far from us. Loma Linda is a place that was designated quite a while ago as one of the blue zones when the two gentlemen that went out and looked at these different areas in the world where the people lived the longest, and they found Loma Linda. And one of the things is about Loma Linda, that means beautiful grounds, Loma being the earth where you're living, the pastures, the forests, the things, Loma Linda. Correct me if I'm wrong, Juan. I think that's what it means. Linda, obviously, we all know that means beautiful or pretty. Where it is, I don't know. I want to look it up on a map. I think it's fairly close to where we live now because we live in the Coachella Valley and we live close to some of the places that have been noted are close to Loma Linda, like Banning and places like that. So I'm going to get in my car, take my husband with me, and we're going to go drive to Loma Linda at some point. A day trip. I want to see what it's like. So in it, these people, these gentlemen who founded the premise of blue zones and living long past 100, they found that in Loma Linda, it's a faith-based lifestyle. It's a vegetarian diet. It's a community of Seventh-day Adventists. That is a religious sect. Like I would liken it to Mormons and different sects like that. SECTS. All right. The habits, they have no smoking, no alcohol, and on their Sabbath, which I'm assuming is Sunday, they have no work. They have only rest and they're very quiet. Much like Charlie Kirk, he told his wife and his employees, the people he worked with at Turning Point USA, that Sunday is the Sabbath and he's going to be praying, concentrating on that and worshiping God. And it's a day of rest to spend with your family and your friends quietly. Their diet consists, well, they're vegetarian. So what it consists of are vegetables, nuts, and legumes. Legumes like beans and peas and things like that. Why it works? It's because it has a purpose and it's built in rest. They only work those 6 days of the week. And that's their purpose in life, being with the other people and moderation. Okay, so I might take my video camera, if they allow me, take some pictures of Loma Linda when I get there. Now, if I was really a good reporter, I'd go to Costa Rica right now and check it out and see exactly what it is like. So what I want to talk about today is a couple of the other reasons why blue zones have been designated this and what's happening in the Coachella Valley, which is where we live. We live in Cathedral City. We live next door to Palm Springs, Palm Desert, all of those places where the Canadians love to come and be the tourist for the winter season because it's so cold in Canada. So we get lots and lots of visitors here. And then in the summer, it hops from being in the mild 70s during our winter to as high as 120, which was how it was when we moved in 2 years ago. Now, I've been coming here since I was a baby. My uncle, just as a side note, had a home here in Palm Springs with a swimming pool. And my grandma would bring us down here, my brother and me, to play in his house. And we'd see my great uncle, and it was a lovely time. So I've been coming here for well over 70 years, and I've certainly seen it grow with the new cities and all. It's a remarkable place. I love it down here. I love the landscape of the sand and the mountains surrounding the valley, and which were pushed up when the lake was evaporating and splashing around, and it pushed the mountains up here. There was a lake. We sit on a lake. And a dormant earthquake fault. So most of the people in blue zones move naturally every day. They walk to friends, they walk to meals, to errands, to work maybe, not because they're exercising, but because it's a way of life for them. Daily life requires it. It's one of the core powers and 9 habits that are listed to call an area a blue zone. The thing that is interesting me is not just the walkability of these blue zones, but active transportation. And besides the walking and having places close enough to walk to, the restaurants, the little cafes, the church, the shopping area where you buy your clothes and your boots, all of this creates a sense of calmness in you. And there are fewer heart diseases and diabetes because they don't rely on cars as much as we do. And these kind of blue zones encourage people to walk, not for exercise, but that's what has happened to all of our lives. I don't see too many people walking in California unless they're going for a hike and they're looking at nature, and maybe they walk around the beach or something, but they don't walk to work, to school anymore. When I was young, I walked to school. My grandkids actually live down the street from a school, so they walk to school every day. Now they're 20 and 18. They don't walk to school anymore, nor do they walk to work because places are too far away. You can't walk. I try to walk every single day, but it's my exercise, I guess I would say. I don't work out anymore. I used to work out. I don't work out anymore. I swim occasionally, and I do walk. I walk whenever I can. I walk when I'm working from home and I'm thinking, I I just want to put this to the side. And I do put it to the side. And then I go out and take a walk just to clear my head, stretch my body, say hello to people, get a little sunshine. You need sun every day. So that's what is called active transportation. It's your body. It's your body taking you places. They also design streets that are welcoming to people walking. We have a street by us that is actually our address, and you can get into our condo complex and other gates, but the main gate is on a pretty busy street, 4 lanes, 2 coming and going. And I told those people not to call me, but I know it's an emergency, so they'll have to wait. But they don't have sidewalks. They have winding trails, sand, hard sand, wandering through beautiful landscaping that they have maintained or kept or planted of the cacti and the trees. Beautiful. And if you're not familiar with cactus and living in a very arid area, like most of the country is not a big desert, they're more like the fields of wheat and grasses growing through the Great Plains and things like that. But here in the desert and other places where there's desert, we have beautiful cactus. Beautiful cacti is the plural, and they bloom at different times of the year, and they're spectacular. So they have made the sidewalks not necessary, except in places where they can't have these beautiful walkways, and that encourages people to walk. And of course, a big one for parks. I've already told you about that. Bicycling and access to neighborhood destinations and groceries and social hubs, the residents tend to move more. Movement isn't a chore, it's part of how they go about life. We just completed in the Coachella Valley this 40-mile long bike path that we opened the first gates to it a couple weeks ago, that it is extending further and further. It goes all the way across the Coachella Valley. What a wonderful thing. People can ride their bikes all the way, run on it, walk on it. You can take golf cart, little vehicles to go down it. No regular vehicles, no motorcycles, no things like that. And people are using it all the time. And we have these wonderful bike lanes on most of the roads here through the valley in the different cities and all. Now, the one thing we don't have, but you should be aware of because it's spectacular. One of the things we don't have are street lights at night. It's pitch black. Well, we have lights in the parking areas and garages and things like that in the different places. We have no valet parking or parking meters in the Coachella Valley, or rather in Palm Springs, I should say. I don't know about other places, but I don't recall any in Palm Desert or La Quinta or any place like that. It's all open parking. And at night, the only lights you see are right at the front doors of the restaurants or bars or hotels where you're getting out, or your own home as you're pulling in. And then it's lights out. It's pitch black. And you know what? You see the most spectacular display of the moon and stars. And that's where you teach your grandkids to look and see Orion's belt, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, the Milky Way. It's fascinating. And the moons, you see every stage of the moon. It's absolutely beautiful. And this is one thing that is very common in these designated blue zone areas. So now I want to ask you, what do you think of Coachella Valley trying to become a blue zone? They've actually initiated this, and Palm Springs is one of the cities, and a couple other cities down here that you haven't heard of. Cathedral City is one where we live. They are trying to get designated as a blue zone, and apparently there is an organization now that will certify you. I haven't had a chance to investigate this, but probably the men who discovered the blue zones and all may have had something to do with it, or people they know did it. So you have to apply to do it, and Coachella Valley actually did it. And the restaurants were the first to want to join it. But I'm not sure I'm in favor of all of this, of having different cities or areas around the country trying to designate themselves as blue zones. It's very obvious here in Coachella Valley that people are into their health and longevity. We have really a large population of people who live to be older ages. Well, one of them, we have a huge, always a huge white population. We have a Native American population that are smart and have always lived like people do in blue zones. They even have the medicinals that are carried through centuries of people with the herbs and things like that. These are true blue zones. A lot of the Coachella Valley, and probably most of it, I would think, is still Indian reservations. They own the land here, so. And we pay dearly for it. Most of ours doesn't happen to be on Indian land, but in the condominiums that have gone up, and Disney has built huge, which I'm so much against, complexes, stacking the people in. They have leased the land from the Native Americans. And that's their right to do that. This has been in the treaties. And I, for one, think the Native Americans were mistreated in many ways. And I'm glad they're getting compensation now. Obviously, we're not going to take back all of our land, but if you live someplace where it's owned by the Indians, your homeowners associations pay checks to them, and if you go to sell it, it has to be approved by the Indian tribe that owns it. So my question is, why are you trying to take these places and turn them into blue zones when you have no intention of really living like it's a blue zone? There is one I saw pictures of the other day, and the people in there all had their coffee cups full of something and dancing around to music and all. It was here in the Coachella Valley, and they were calling it, trying to designate it a blue zone. And they looked to me like they were having cocktail hour and having a grand old time. But the entire area they were in was not a blue zone or designated or under the auspices of trying to apply to be a blue zone. But they had a couple restaurants listed, and restaurants seem to be the first people who want to be designated a blue zone. And the two restaurants I saw in this area were already closed. Well, okay, so you have vegetables and things like that in your store or your restaurant, and that makes you a blue zone? Well, I saw one of the bakeries had sourdough bread, and that's quite a thing these days. It's been a thing in my life since I lived in the San Francisco area. years and years ago and first discovered sourdough. It's wonderful and it's good for you. It's better than those gluten-filled loaves that get squishy like Wonder Bread used to be. So I'm against everybody trying to make their city a blue zone unless they really, truly mean it and that will follow the rules. Everybody can't be like that. And why do you want to live over 100 anyway? If you have no purpose, like so many people email me and tell me, I want to live to be 100, what can I do? When I ask them why, they can't tell me. And I'll ask them, what is your purpose in life? And I'll ask them things like, do you do charity work? Do you have grandkids that you love to see and want to instill your wonderful thoughts in them and how to eat properly? And what's your purpose? Do you have friends? Do you talk? I don't know. I don't talk to my friends all the time, but I'm always in touch with them. We message back and forth. We talk. I try to go see them. We're spread out all over now as everybody's deciding to retire in different places. I have quite a few girlfriends down here. Unfortunately, I'm losing a lot of friends lately because that's my age, 78. And not all of them have lived the kind of life I've lived. So I'm losing them and it's very sad for me. But we remaining friends try to get together and try to eat healthy and we have a good time. So that is my story for the day. I want you to all please say a prayer for Samantha, her mother, Nancy, and Savannah Guthrie, and her mother, Nancy, still missing and no clues. So let's say a prayer for them and all the little children that have cancer and are fighting that, just because I've seen them all this morning and we all love our children and don't want them to suffer. So that's it for today for me. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, I'm going to be talking a lot about LifeWave and the different things you can do with LifeWave. Remember, those are those small patches you can stick on you for various things. All right. Now, remember one thing. Cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today.